Week ahead doubts increase that Q1 will be earnings low point. Breaking news. Video by CNBC. New York, March 22. Reuters. As Wall Street braces for what may be the first U.S. profit decline since 2016, investors say the first quarter may not mark the low point for 2019 earnings. Concerns about economic weakness in the United States and abroad and the lack of a U.S.-China trade deal are hanging over the longer-term outlook, even as the Federal Reserve's dovish stance on interest rates is expected to relieve some of the pressure on companies and the economy. In a troubling sign for the U.S. outlook, a report on Friday showed U.S. manufacturing activity unexpectedly cooled in March, and the spread between 3-month Treasury bills and 10-year note yields inverted for the first time since 2007. An inverted Treasury. As stocks sold off in December, some investors worried 2019 would bring a profit recession for S&P 500 companies, defined as at least 2 quarters of year-over-year declines. The last U.S. analysts, after cutting earnings forecasts for 2019, now expect a 1.7% year-over-year earnings decline in the first quarter, and some profit growth for the rest of the year, according to IB's data from Refinitiv. With the Fed on pause and stocks rebounding, optimism seemed to be increasing that the profit outlook would stabilize after hitting a low point in the current quarter. Many investors, This year's earnings growth already was expected to shrink dramatically compared with 2018, when steep corporate tax cuts fueled earnings gains of about 24%. Since the start of the year, the forecast for second quarter profit growth has fallen to 3.0% from 6.4%, while estimated growth for the third quarter has dropped to 2.7% from 4.9%, based on Refinitiv's data. The fourth quarter, those numbers could keep falling, while the first quarter forecast is likely to improve from here. Since Still, with investors largely discounting weaker profit trends, the first quarter reporting period could bring market volatility, Ameriprise financial strategists said. On Tuesday, FedEx Corp cut its 2019 profit forecast for the second time in 3 months, causing its stock to drop and raising fresh worries about the impact of the trade conflict on earnings. The company cited, also, Nike's shares fell 6.61% on Friday after it reported North American sales that fell short of expectations. The United States initially had a deadline to reach a deal on trade with China by March 1, but the White House has said it needs more time. To be sure, a lot of those fears could be reversed if there is a resolution in the U.S.-China trade conflict, and if companies' first quarter reports are not as weak as expected, he said. Strategists said they expect to hear more from companies on the trade conflict when first quarter reporting kicks into high gear around mid-April. Reporting by Caroline Valatkevich. Editing by Alden.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.